Hi, everyone. We're back. It's Team Meg G and Lauren Z, and we've got a really good informational gathering today. So we've got one of our trusted closing attorneys, Collin Gravitt with Campbell and Brannon. Hi, Collin.
Hi there.
We've also, of course, got Lauren Skudowitz that's here. And we've got some great questions regarding legality when it comes to buying and selling today. So obviously very important information here. So one of our first questions, Collin, we're going to come in hot.
All right, let's get it.
So when you're seeing these for sale by owners, right, these owners are realizing, hey, the market is so good. I don't need an agent right now. I'm going to put a sign in the yard and I'm going to sell my property by myself. What landmines have you seen with this exact scenario?
Lots. For one, just putting a sign in your yard does not expose your house to any sort of a market except people driving up and down your street. So you do not know if you're getting the best offer that you could be getting.
Right.
In today's market, it seems like there's a multiple offer situation on the majority of the properties going up for sale. So if you don't have an agent to help you sift through those and talk through the pros and cons of all these various offers, you're going to get quickly overwhelmed with what you're getting, what looks like a good offer but really isn't, what looks like a bad offer which really might be a great offer. You don't have a trained eye to look at those and tell you what are the pros and the cons of each of those. That's just one thing. You may have somebody that's experienced on the other side and put a bunch of special stipulations, a bunch of requirements on the seller that may not be fair, may not be the normal course of business that the seller may agree to because, hey, that they don't know any better. And then they're going to get themselves into a deep hole that they might not be able to get out of, or obligate themselves contractually to things that are really not feasible for them. Timelines.
An example of one of those, like let's throw out something.
Okay. So, I mean, for example, you may have one that says that, they've got no financing contingency. Okay. So maybe a seller might look at that and say, oh, this is going to be a quick thing. But then the buyer may put a special stip in there that says, I have the right to extend the closing unilaterally for 21 days.
Right.
Even though nothing else in the contract says that, normally in a GAR form, you may use see that that's not any different than a financial contingency. That's even like a 21-day due diligence that may not look like a 21-day due diligence. We had one where the buyer reserved a 21-day right to unilaterally extend for any reason.
Yeah.
And they exercised it. And the seller had already packed up. They were ready to close on their transaction, and they had to wait till they sold theirs to buy theirs. And they had a 3-week delay. And there's really nothing the seller could do because they agreed to allow the buyer that. And I don't think a trained agent would ever let their clients agree to that without a very, very, very long conversation about the pitfalls of agreeing to that.
Right.
Ultimately, it's your client's call on what they agree to, but it's the agent is the one that guides them and talks through all the pitfalls with agreeing to certain things. So, we see it a lot where amendments are needed. And, maybe the buyer is represented by an agent and the buyer's agent's typing up all of this. And the seller doesn't have any sort of protection in what they're agreeing to. And most of them aren't going to call up an attorney and ask them for help. And if they do, the attorney might charge them more than what they would have paid in a commission anyway. So, people are trying to save money and gain money and everything like that. But when you're selling the largest investment that you own, you need some protection there. You need somebody that's going to look out for your interests and make sure you're not agreeing to a terrible deal. And that's where your agent comes in. That's where you guys come in and guide and protect people.
Yep, agreed. I know Lauren recently had a transaction where it was a for sale by owner and she was representing the buyers.
I did.
Collin closed it. Well, there you go.
We had a 45-day due diligence that ended 2 days before closing.
Because you're representing your buyers. You are not
Yeah.
representing the seller. And I think that is confused when a seller is a for sale by owner and they think because there's an agent on the other side, they're somehow getting protected or they're somehow getting in with knowledge or no. We represent who we represent. We're representing the buyer and their best intentions and all of that. So
and you know, here's the thing. I mean, most people are not out to screw someone else over, but they are out to protect their clients. But that's not a guarantee that there's not some crooked agent out there who says, okay, we're going to take total advantage of this poor person. And they do. And a seller, trying to save a buck. I get it. People think in this market that you can just throw something, paint it pink, and it'll sell. It's just, it doesn't work that way all the time. And even if it does, you've got to make sure you've got some guidance and some counsel there.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. So Lauren's going to jump to your next fun question.
Oh man, I'm nervous. Lauren Z with the tough ones.
So over the last 12 months, Meg and I both have had an increased number of buyers who are not married. So maybe they're dating, maybe they're engaged, but they are buying a home together. What advice do you have for non-married couples purchasing a home together to make sure that both of them are protected should something go south with their relationship?
Keep renting. I'm kidding. No, we've seen this a lot, and most of the time everything works out great. But yes, you have to pray for the best and expect the worst. So, what the best thing that the couple could do, in my opinion, is draft what we call a co-tenancy agreement. Some people call it a joint ownership agreement. It's kind of like a prenup for a house for people that aren't married yet. And while it feels very formal and legal and people don't want to do it, it's one of those things that when you need it, you're glad you have it. Right. And essentially all that is it's a contract between the parties that says, okay, I'm putting in this much money, you're putting in this much money, we're going to treat it as joint ownership and we're going to jointly be responsible for utilities and costs and upgrades and all the things that come along with home ownership. And if something happens where we are breaking up and we need to sell the house, here's an option for one party to buy out the other. If one party can't buy out the other, here's what we agree to do and sell the property, split the proceeds. You just need to have that backing, because if you don't, it's going to make a bad situation worse. Right. Because people are going to say, well, I paid for this and I paid for that and I should get that. And, you need to hire an attorney that is familiar with not only contracts, but a real estate transaction who can draft these. They're not astronomically expensive. They're not going to be something that breaks the bank, and they're not something that's derived to be adversarial in any way. Right. It's just a protection for both parties. The other thing they need to keep in mind is paying attention to how the property is actually titled. There's when one or more people own a piece of property, they're going to either own it as tenants in common, or they're going to own it as joint tenants with the rights of survivorship. Tenants in common is an ownership where such that if we all three buy a piece of property and we own it as tenants in common, and I die first, my ownership in the property goes to my estate and my family. It doesn't automatically go to you. And some people prefer it, if they're not married, for that to happen. So they need to make sure they own it as tenants in common. Joint tenants with rights of survivorship is the way most couples that are married take title, and such that, Meg, if you pass away, your husband's going to get your interest, right? No court process, nothing like that. But, if they're two unmarried people, maybe there's plans to get there, but they're not there, they probably need to own it as tenants in common. It's an easy change to change ownership with a deed. That's something that can easily be done after the fact. So, don't be so anxious to tie it all up if you're not even willing to get married yet. I mean, that's fine. You don't have to, but you might want to protect your interest in doing that and at least have those conversations beforehand. And
Right.
They may not be fun, but they're probably worth it in the long run.
So tenants in common is not the default.
It is not the default. Most firms, if there's more than one person, they're going to just default to joint tenants with rights of survivorship. We do. We go over to the closing. If somebody specifically doesn't want it that way, they need to let us know. But that's the default. And if you've got somebody that's done it and then they find out, oops, we didn't want it this way, it's an easy fix to go from joint tenants to tenants in common as well.
I think this is really vital information. And one of the reasons that we love partnering with you and Campbell and Brannon is you all have seen so many war stories and you've seen so much, right? You just know how to protect and prepare. And so that's something that we always really want to make sure that our clients understand is that we're here to make sure that you're making the best possible decisions. And then having a great partner like you is so crucial because we know how to, get ahead of these landmines before they do happen, which we want everyone to live happily ever after.
Well, that's the thing. And I think there's this myth out there that we can't talk to the attorney or, we shouldn't call them and bother them. But that's what we're here for. That's why we have these partnerships so that you guys can feel comfortable enough to call me up and say, we got an issue, or can you help me with this before we go here? That's the kind of stuff we like to do, the counseling, the helping. That's why most of us got into this, other than, going to great cocktail parties and, all that, but is the helping part. We like the happy law aspect of being a closing attorney and helping people navigate through these problems. Now, we may not always be the one to do the work to help, but we can certainly talk through it and refer to someone who may be able to resolve whatever the situation is they're in or what they need to get out of or fix or prepare for or whatever that may be.
Yeah. I think Lauren and I both have made the most calls this year.
There's some people where when my phone rings, I groan, but I don't do that with you guys. So
oh, good.
Don't worry about it.
Sorry, Lauren, what were you saying?
I was saying that's such a great lead-in to our last question. Why should buyers and sellers care about who the closing attorney is?
Well, that's a misnomer. I think that closing attorneys are a dime a dozen. And I had somebody tell me that one time, really chapped me. But, for you guys, your difficult part is getting it under contract, and dealing with the things that pop up throughout. But our job is to get it from contract to close without issue. And part of that is open lines of communication. Being available to speak to you guys as the agents, speak to your clients, talk them through whatever's going on, address, suddenly they've got to go out of town and we need a power of attorney, or, suddenly in the last year and a half, now they have COVID. What are we going to do here? And address these issues as they come. And we've got, and I'll say it till the cows come home, we have the best people working in our firm. Our paralegals, our attorneys, everybody is top notch. So it's easy to say, come work with us or let them close, because we care about it and we want to do a good job. And it's a sense of pride for us to do a great job and for people to walk away with a smile on their face and to feel like everything went the way it was supposed to go. We do everything we can to do that. And I think that sense of needing to do it right and to do a good job is what helps us elevate our service to you guys and to your clients every closing, at least, as best we can. The world is wild, and, we've had to adjust to what's going on. And I think we're doing a pretty good job, but having a comfort level and a level of trust with your closing attorney is just so important, so that I mean, referral business is an agent's lifeblood. And if everything's great until the very end, they're only going to remember the bad stuff.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah,
and we
so
want
true.
that last step to be a great one. So they walk out and say, man, this whole thing was wonderful. And they may not remember who the closing attorney was, but they will remember we had a wonderful experience. And that's really what we want. It's always great when people call me up and say, you closed my purchase 5 years ago. I'm looking to do a refi. Can you close it? I'm like, wow, you remember? But, the goal is that, and it's Mike Campbell says this, we take care of the client, the staff takes care of the clients, and the clients take care of us. And it's a nice, wonderful symbiotic circle. And we want to keep trying to do that.
They also remember that Collin Gravitt smile. One time. Hey.
So full disclosure, I'm at the beach, and the reason I'm blurred is because I'm sitting in my bedroom in front of an unmade bed. But when I was leaving the beach to come do this interview with you guys, my brothers-in-law were like, "Why are you putting a shirt on, man? Just let it hold." I was like, "Yeah, I don't know if that'll be the greatest thing in the world."
It's a lot more interesting, that's for sure. Well, thank you so much. We know, obviously, we took you away from the beach for a little bit here, but I hope this is very valuable information for our viewership. And again, this is Collin Gravitt with Campbell and Brannon in the Glen Ridge office. And reach out to us if you have any questions or need any help. We're here to serve our clients. Thanks. Everyone.
Thanks, ladies. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.